I do know that when it comes to predictions, Paddy was talking about it being a first round knockout. And hey, if it's a first round knockout, I'm all for it. I'm here for it. Sign me the fuck up. Yes, it has the possibility. I'd say like 40% possibility of going knockout first round, but 60% possibility going to it. What the fuck is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the Kevin Hoop Show. And if this is your first time here, I appreciate if you would just hit that subscribe button, if you would just do that for me, and I would very much appreciate it. Without further ado, though, we have got a great fight breakdown on our hands today. We've got Paddy the motherfucking Paddy Pimblett going up against... What's this guy's name again? I'm just kidding. I'm pretty sure it's Jared Gordon he's going up against. I actually know it's Jared Gordon. I thought that would be funny, but, you know, if it is, it is. If it's not, it's not. I really thought Paddy was going to have this fight easily in the bag. I really did think that. And then I actually watched both sides, and I learned that both of these guys are pretty nice guys. If you remember in Paddy's last fight, he talked about suicide and his friend committing suicide. And if you need anybody, and mental health in general as well, if men in general need to talk to someone or are in a depression type of mind state, don't feel like you can't talk to anyone. Don't bottle that shit in. And Jared Gordon comes from a background of drug addiction and addiction in general, and is noticing that it's not really, drugs and alcohol wasn't his problem, it was his mind. And, when you focus that on the right things, when it comes to training or focusing that on mixed martial arts and, bettering his craft when it comes to MMA, it really just shows what you can do instead of doing something bad when it comes to doing drugs. I did think Paddy was going to win this without really looking much into it, but if, you look at things from afar, Jared Gordon's not a ranked guy or anything, so he's not the biggest competitor in the lightweight division right now. I do think the next guy Paddy will face will be a ranked guy if he beats Jared Gordon. I thought it was going to be a big, easy, not really much of a question mark. But when you really look into this, which I'll get into, I really do think it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. And what I mean by that is I don't want Paddy Pimblett to underestimate this guy. I know he's got a lot of hype behind him himself. I know that he's got that more unorthodox style of fighting. You can't really necessarily plan for Paddy Pimblett because he's throwing all types of strikes at you constantly, and his gas tank is, massive from what we've seen so far. Another thing that I want to really get into is the background of Jared Gordon. I did say earlier, who the fuck is this guy? I don't think a lot of people did know really who Jared Gordon was. I think he, is still someone kind of new on the scene. He has had 9 to 8 fights in the UFC right now. And I do think that he has had some struggles. And one of the reasons being that I don't think a lot of people are talking about is the dude has had like 3 guys back out of fights and then new fighters put in place and has had to, had 2 weeks preparation for some of his fights, especially when it comes to some of his finishes. He's been knocked out a few times or TKO'd sometimes 2 or 3 times. He has also been put in a rear naked choke once. And that one time was against Grant Dawson. And what do you know? It was one of those fights where the fighter before Grant Dawson, he was supposed to be fighting someone else other than Grant Dawson before that. Grant Dawson was thrown in there at the end and probably had a good background in jiu-jitsu or grappling in general and put up a good fight. So he probably was focusing more on his punches, more on his striking than he was on his grappling. I'm just looking at it from a perspective of playing devil's advocate to Paddy Pimblett and, not trying to be on the hype train. But I do definitely think Paddy Pimblett has a chance of winning this fight when it comes to his unorthodox style, like I mentioned earlier. If you really look into it, Jared Gordon has actually got his brown belt in jiu-jitsu from none other than John Danaher, the best jiu-jitsu coach right now on the planet. Everyone is looking at John Danaher right now as the top jiu-jitsu coach of all time, maybe. And right now, I think that if he's gotten his brown belt from John Danaher, he's definitely got a good ground game. He can definitely hold himself on that on the ground, and I don't think that rear naked choke has much to put into play because it was such a of a short fight notice that he had for it. For those of you that don't know much about John Danaher, let me just put a couple facts on you real quick. Jordan Ryan, the Rotolo brothers, Craig Jones, he's trained them all. Everybody, once they start training with John Danaher, starts getting championships. It's just 1 + 1 = 2. As simple as that. Leading up to fight week, there's been a lot of interviews, obviously, with Jared Gordon coming out as well. And I've just gotten this mentality from him that he might not be taking it as seriously as I thought he was originally. And what I'll say to that is he said after he gets to the weigh-ins, then he's already won. And maybe he didn't mean it in the way that I perceived it, but in the way that I took it is, he's going to be winning just by walking into the octagon Saturday night. I think that that's where my opinion kind of flipped on who I really thought was going to be taking the fight, because I did think he had a not quit mentality. I really did think that, and I thought he was going to be capitalizing on the opportunity that he was fighting someone with such a big fan base and so much hype behind him in general. With that, I completely lost all of that once I heard that one sentence from him in an interview. And I think it was in one of the embeddeds that he was doing an interview in. Once I heard that, I really just thought about it. And I don't think that he has the right mentality of, I'm not only going to win by just walking in there Saturday night, but I'm only going to win this if I beat Paddy Pimblett. He already has one loss recently. If he loses again, he's going to be on a 2-fight losing streak. He's never been ranked before in the UFC. And I just don't think he might be in the UFC much longer. I just don't think he might be that much of an entertaining fighter in the future in this division. Coming down to the nitty-gritty of the fight, though, I do think that both of these guys have good ground game. So with that, you're probably going to see some takedown attempts, and if you do, I think that they're going to be defended by the other person. I don't know necessarily who's going to be on the defense more heavy, because it really could be either person. It all depends on the fighter's strategy. And I think both fighters' strategy is, let's keep it on the feet, because that's where we have the chance to get the knockout. Both of them know that they have good ground game, looking at each other from the opposite side. So I think if you're going to see takedowns, it's just going to be defenses, and you're going to see a lot of striking. You have Paddy Pimblett coming from Strikeforce, definitely has a lot of striking experience just from that, and a lot of experience in general in the cage. And, that's where a lot of people in the UFC have been kind of groomed and, gotten ready for the UFC by fighting in Cage Warriors and getting a reputation in Cage Warriors, and then coming to the UFC and being an absolute fucking killer, which, is looking like to be the Paddy Pimblett path. That's the path he's, going to be going on. If the fight does stay on the feet, I do think that the fight is going to go to a decision. I don't think that, Jared Gordon is going to get knocked out. It has that possibility. Paddy Pimblett's done it in almost all of his fights, other than the rear naked choke ones. But even if he lands a shot and it goes to the ground, he can easily put a rear naked choke on him. Maybe not easily, because Jared Gordon does have good ground game, but if he's stunned, if anyone's stunned on the ground, it's pretty easy to put in a rear naked choke, or at least to take the back and start to put in the rear naked choke and begin the process of of finishing the fight. Another reason I think it's going to go to a decision if it stays on the feet is if you look at Jared Gordon's fights, he actually has more total strikes usually than the other opponent, even if he does get knocked out in the end. But usually his output is more than his opponent. If he does come out, though, with those significant strikes more than Paddy Pimblett, all he needs is one of those to land and to stun Paddy, which we haven't really seen Paddy Pimblett in the trenches of a fight yet. We've really only seen him dominating, which, is definitely hats off to him, to his style, and to how he, goes about fighting. I do think his style is very unorthodox and very hard to predict. And with that, fighters don't really just know how to start the fight with Paddy. They'll go in maybe a little timid, and then Paddy will just come in really hot with knees, elbows, left hooks, everything. I know a real big thing is his uppercuts. He brings in his uppercuts and just connects with that right uppercut super, super easily compared to other fighters and trying to get in and close the distance. I do know that when it comes to predictions, Paddy was talking about it being a first-round knockout. And hey, if it's a first-round knockout, I'm all for it. I'm here for it. Sign me the fuck up. Yes, it has the possibility. I'd say like 40% possibility of going knockout first round, but 60% possibility going to a decision. And that is going to be my prediction for the fight. Paddy Pimblett wins by decision, third round. I mean, really at the end of the fight, you could say third round decision. However you want to say it. It's going to Paddy the Baddie, though. That is going to be it for this one, though, folks. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget, UFC 282 is going to be this Saturday. We are going to be doing a watch party at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Do not forget to tune in. We are also going to be having a breakdown of the Magomed Ankalaev fight versus Jan Blachowicz fight tomorrow, so tune in for that breakdown on Friday. And don't forget, guys, if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you're coming back to the channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to let me know as well who you guys think are going to be taking the W in this Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon fight. Once again, I think it's going to go to Paddy Pimblett in the decision, but it really could go to him, though, in the first round if he brings it. Which he usually does bring it. I'm not saying he doesn't bring it, but I do think Jared Gordon is going to be a little bit of a tougher opponent for him. And I do think it's going to be a good fight overall. So don't forget to tune into the watch party when we're watching it live. And don't forget to have a great day. A great motherfucking day.